I just made the video about the nicheness thing, and even the social pressures of that are kind of getting to me, right? Like, I think everything I said is probably stupid and people are going to hate me. Me when high neuroticism. Anyways, I'm going to ignore that and I'm going to make something a little more lighthearted. Yes, that title is stupid and dumb, but it's true. This did happen. So I'm telling a story. I'm telling a story, okay? I'm telling a story, and it's going to be great, and you're going to sit here and you're going to listen to it, and it's going to be awesome. So I am in university. I'm not going to say where because I'm not going to dox myself. I'm in university. I'm a student. I'm a great student. I have a very high GPA, if you need to know that. Maybe that's my own vanity. I'm just kidding. Anyways, so I'm a student in university. I do media-related things. I'm a journalism major. I work at a radio station. I'm probably going to get like a visual, like sound, you know, design, media, whatever, sort of like minor degree so I can do similar stuff to this, right? So that's what I'm doing, right? I love media. This is great. This is awesome. I want to be a sports broadcast, love sports broadcasting. Wow. Great time, right? I'm going into my junior year, which means, if the math is correct, it was early 2024 when all of what I'm about to describe happened, right? So as I was going through the admissions process, my parents greatly encouraged me to apply for just about as many scholarships as I possibly could. I was awarded a pretty fat chunk of change from the university I now attend, but it was only enough to cover maybe about half my education, so there was still a lot to be made up. University in America is very, very expensive. It's kind of too expensive. There's a lot of things that could be done to fix that problem. But so, like I said, my parents encouraged me to apply to a lot of different scholarships. I certainly had the record in high school to, you know, be able to earn these things or to be awarded, you know, this or that. And so I kind of did. I was not nearly as prolific or proactive as I could have been. But, you know, I shopped around. I pieced together a couple of different outside sources of money and attempted many others. This was one of those attempts. I'm just looking through, you know, local scholarships that are being offered, and I was kind of bewildered by this one because it seemed so free and yet it also seemed so weird to do. Local Masonic Lodge was offering $500, maybe $1,000, and I don't know that it renewed. It might be renewable, but I can't remember. They were offering this money to just anyone who applied, right? Nobody that I know is a Freemason, thank goodness, because that's awful, which we'll get to. In fact, we'll get to it right now. If you don't know, I'm a Catholic. That thing there, it's great, I mean that. And being affiliated with the Masonic Lodge at all gets you automatically excommunicated from the Catholic Church. So, one, don't do that. That would be very bad, especially if you're already Catholic. Two, at the time, this gave me a significant moral dilemma. It was only in autumn of 2023 that I had like really stepped into my faith, right? I'd gone to confession for the first time since I was a kid. I'd been making a regular habit of doing that. I was going to Mass and receiving the Eucharist reverently. You know, actually trying to live a bit of a moral life in accordance with the teachings of Jesus Christ, in accordance with the teachings of the Catholic Church, okay? And so at the time I'm sitting here, and I learned from, you know, the black box fantasy land, the whole thing about Masons getting excommunicated. And this gave me a lot of pause, right? Probably more than I realistically needed, right? And so I'm just sitting here, and I have this opportunity. It seems like, you know, again, it's just little bits and pieces. You just got to scrape up whatever money you can in the scholarship search. You're not always going to get awarded that $10,000, whatever. It's $500, $1,000, $2,000. You build that up, right? At least if you're referring to outside resources. And I couldn't do it, you know? I couldn't like in good conscience make that judgment like on my own, right? And and so I'm just sitting on this for days, maybe a week, maybe weeks, honestly. I can't remember. I'm sitting on this opportunity and I'm like, I mean, it's just $500, you know, it's a pretty good thing. Then in my mind, I'm like, foolish schizophrenic zeal, me, I'm like, is this evil money? Am I getting this money from evil people, right? And inevitably this gets to a point where I'm like, I'm not going to, in good conscience, make this judgment on my own. I'm gonna reach out to somebody, and reach out I did. At the time, I was very close with this deacon at my parish. He was kind of guiding me through a lot of like, I want to say entry level, but it really wasn't entry level because I was like, I'm kind of a neurotic person and a little bit of a perfectionist, and so I was worried about very high level moral problems and was just going up and up and up and up instead of like getting a baseline sort of Catholic spirituality, baseline sort of life, which ironically some 2-3 years later I'm finally actually getting around to laying a decent foundation to things. Anyways, so I talk to this deacon pretty regularly for, advice and answers to moral questions. And so, I'm talking to him fairly regularly. And I don't know if I emailed or if I texted him. Knowing me, I probably texted him. But I'm not sure. I don't know. I probably could have texted him, but I chose to email instead because it was a serious question, which is almost stupider. So, I could probably find this. I just realized I could probably find this and I can read it exactly. Okay, so I don't think it was an email, and I'm not really going to pull up the text, but this brings up something interesting. Can an event, by the way, being a Catholic teenager, not really practicing your faith too much, but still being a catechist or still helping out with like volunteering for catechesis stuff, typically for elementary schoolers because they don't know diddly squat. I don't. Does anybody have that experience? Okay, doesn't matter. Anyways, so eventually, I'm just like, I gotta reach out. And I shoot him, I guess I shot him a text. And I'm like, hey, deacon, I got a problem. And I say, hey, hope you're well. I had a question about something. I'm a little worried about this. I don't know how exactly great of a situation this is. But I'm going to college soon. You know that. I'm applying for scholarships, and I just have a question about this. There's an opportunity from the Masonic Lodge. Can I do this? Is it licit to accept this money? Because I don't know. And I kid you not. I said the exact words. This is the one thing I remember is like, this feels like taking money from the Satanic Temple, which one is a wild thing to say, even though there is valid reasons why the Catholic hierarchy believes Freemasonry is evil that I'm not aware of, but they have given that judgment and I trust it. This is like a local Masonic lodge. These are just random people, right? They might be weirdos and have their strange ritual on the inside, which that's a whole other thing, but it is not that deep, right? Most of these people are probably just as conservative as your average like Catholic grandpa, right? They're just a part of this really weird institution. But I very specifically said that. I was like, this feels like I'm taking money from the Satanic Temple, right? I know the church is opposed to these guys. What am I supposed to do? And my deacon basically was just like, dude, you're fine, right? Like, he didn't have that sarcastic tone. He took my question very seriously, and he laid everything out, but he was like, I mean, you're not intending to support evil by doing this, and this is a very local organization. This is not necessarily like evil, right? And this is an entirely like, he didn't say this exactly, but I'm guessing his logic behind it as well is the fact that this is entirely a secular affair. This is just having to do with monetary things, right? It's like, it's not any worse than like doing business with like a Protestant or something, like it's not that deep. And so I was like, okay. And so I filled out the application, and I actually very recently read over the essay that I did. And it was all right. It was very basic stuff. It was like, I am this person. These are my dreams, so on and so forth, right? I want to be a sports broadcaster, and I want to buy a home and raise a family and have, blah, 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 whatever. And I want to serve the people around me and serve God and so on, blah, 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 blah. Very standard stuff for somebody like me to write. My prose wasn't exactly eloquent or rhetorically beautiful. it was just me very plainly stating stuff, so it wasn't really that good. And eventually, I did not get $500 from the Masonic Lodge, which gives me a little bit of ease of conscience, right? Because even with my deacon kind of giving the go ahead, I'm like, I still don't know. I still don't know. I look on that as a relic of a completely foreign time in my life, you know? And unfortunately, that's a tendency I have. I tend to look at different periods of my life as almost stories from other people that aren't even me. And I think that there's some personal work I need to do. If I can be vulnerable on Maine, this isn't even my main account. It's like, you know, maybe I should reconcile, you know, a lot of my memories and a lot of my thoughts, and try to present myself, at least to myself, as one sort of coherent person. It is truly one coherent story, right? My human development, everybody's human development, every single individual has one coherent story, and to sort of self-fracture is a psychologically damaging thing, I believe. At least in the long run. So, just trying to work on that. But, yeah. Very, very weird time.